So let it be. The last project, I'm just keeping it as open, but maybe I'll come back and edit it because this part of our explanation is primarily on JavaScript side. So I'll let you know what is JavaScript and how to start using it. Then again, we'll come back. Is there any way we can touch this code? So have a JavaScript compatibility. Probably, my task is right now, or maybe not today, at least in coming sessions. Can anybody give me how I can add a mobile compatibility? I'm looking for something, I don't want to say, but if we really want to give a mobile compatibility, my assumption, the header should get retracted and the output column should come into the center. So the header comes up to here, and this particular bar should be placed below to a header fully, and the Abdul Kalam, whatever the content, should come below to it, and this right bar should also come below to the content, and finally it means all the boxes should find uniformly in the vertical base. Maybe from left to I'm starting. So this is the first one, and second one, third one, fourth one. I need to bring everybody or every boxes one by one below. And of course, the additional space also I need to remove because I don't want to get the user keep scrolling to see the content. So only up to the side, whatever it is there, it should be displayed. Or maybe I should retract it, put it into some sort of draggable, or maybe once I click the button, the additional box appears. So immediately you see the content. They should do some sort of manipulations in order to make the whole site as a mobile ready. We'll see it. It may not be possible today because, of course, that's the part we are trying to go. With the help of JavaScript, how I can do it, that we'll see. But anyway, before getting into that, I need to tell you what is JavaScript, what is Jquery, what is Jquery Mobile, and of course, we will reach that place. Can somebody just try jquery.com? I remember it's that. Yeah, jquery.com. So in that, there is an option to download jQuery. You can safely click it because it won't download immediately. There are two versions of jQuery available. If you go to the site, at least whether the site is accessible? Accessible. Okay, download jQuery. Once you click, you will see a two version, jQuery 1.x and 2.x. In that, I'm pretty interested on the download compressed production ready jQuery, something like that. Either 1.x or 2.x, anything you can select. If you click, uh, for me it downloaded. Just tell me whether it gets downloaded. Downloads, right? That's good. If it doesn't download, also no problem because it's a very small file. We can somehow work it out to get it on board. So you can download it, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So at least I have some sort of you know uh, flexibility to use the jQuery as of now seems to be. So okay, fine. The 1.x and 2.x, they are very clearly themselves very clearly give an explanation why they have two versions. Especially if you read it, jQuery 2.x has the same API as jQuery 1.x, but it does not support
Can we
IE
run it, sir?
678.
Can we run the
Pardon?
Can we run the jQuery?
Don't need to run. Just I asked you to download this. It's not a software to run. It is nothing but some set of JavaScript functions.
Okay.
We will use them. I just wanted to have it downloaded, so don't need to run anything. jQuery, I already told, is JavaScript library. A library, often what we call, it is written in the same programming language what we are learning now, and of course it is already contained various functions which you can use it to uh, uh, keep the modularity in place, and you can reuse it as much as possible. For example, to attain asynchronous HTTP call and retrieve the response from the URL, it is slightly of a complex coding involved. You need to write the code and you need to write the callback method so that when result is received and then another function will be executed. Writing everything through a JavaScript from the scratch may involve various checks on various methods or various classes to be created. Whereas jQuery has already everything, and all you need to do is make an instance of the class and use it. So for that purpose, but I had to get to do it before that we see what's there. JavaScript itself. So a new project. JS whatever name. Same like what you call style sheet. JavaScript also can be incorporated in a document. I mean HTML document. You may have noticed sometime I tell HTML file or sometimes I said HTML document, sometimes I said DOM, sometimes I say tag. In fact, I'm trying to address the same thing. But every language has their own terminologies. When you talk too much on JavaScript, this JavaScript guys often call the HTML file as a document. And when CSS guy often talk about the style sheet and other things, they often use a word called tag. Mean they are referring the same document and attribute as a tag. What I'm trying to refer is same. A single HTML file, which is something comes with the file.html or file.php, file.jsp, wherever the HTML part is there, that is called a document. A browser instance where the HTML document is running is called window. So there is an object called window and document exists in JavaScript. Window means the entire the instance which is trying to refer the context of a browser window. If a document, if I try to say, it is referring the context of the HTML file, the single file what which is being loaded. Okay, so a JavaScript can find a place anywhere in the document. It could be anywhere, but as a matter of convention, I start with the head tag. It's going to be right now. It's pretty simplified. All you need to have a script open and close tag and start right away writing your JavaScript objects declaration or maybe initializing methods. Couple of differences between the conventional object-oriented language than this JavaScript. Uh, the programming language such as C++ and Java contains a keyword called class. So identify to make it this particular block is referred as a class or something like that. But whereas JavaScript does not have a specific keywords or something like that, it is always understandable or understood in such a way whether to treat a function as a class or a function as a function itself. We don't need to worry about too much as of now. I'll just start with JavaScript. So any object start with a keyword var variable trying to say it is a typical JavaScript variable. The var is a keyword which tells I'm trying to declare an object. The object name is my op or something like that what I've written, and it is taking a value or receiving a message called hello. Receiving a message may be something little unusual, but in object-oriented programming language, object always receive a message. This is the design pattern idea what we conclude. Otherwise, in Java terminology, what we say, an object is declared first and the object get initialized with a value. So up to this, what has happened? The var my op is nothing but an object declaration. Only the object has been declared. Okay, this is going to be an object. But when the moment the equal comes, some value is being given, an object not only declared, it also initialized with the value. So this is an understanding. Anywhere if you notice, it's not only for a JavaScript what I'm trying to say, this is the matter of principle of an object-oriented program. That's what I said, object-oriented program always inspired from the real-world activities. In what is happening in the real world, I can simply connect it. That's what the benefit of an object-oriented program. So, for example, Uh, I'm a human. I'm a male, and I'm a person about some 30 plus age, and I'm Vasudev, and something like that. I can keep defining a particular person, or something like as I know about particular. But everything starts with a human being, according to our understanding, according to the lifestyle what we are living. So object is a very generic name. So it may be something relevant relevant to a current scenario where it is living. In this case, it's a JavaScript. So the world is JavaScript for it. Within the world, there is something is there that is called object. And further, I may go ahead define it, and as I know about its type and behaviors and how it is going to live on the particular world, then I can give a different name. But everything starts with an object. This is what understanding of your object-oriented programming in the real world entity. That's what we often call it. What is object? The real world entity. We simply know about it, but how we relate it, it is because this way. So if you want to compare a human, human lives on a world, and in the world he is being told in some certain classification. Similarly, this particular object-oriented programming, this particular language word is going to be used tag, and it is JavaScript. In JavaScript, an object is there. An object, it looks like a string. I'm not going to say a string, since we are going to see Java. Anything we define within the quotation, we call them as a string. So it looks like this object is some type of string. The object is taking some string value. So I can say it's a string instead of saying an object. So if I know the further classification, I will keep changing my name. That's what I said. When somebody is coming, as I said in this class, and there is a person, you simply say, when the person slightly comes closer, you say, hey, it looks like a man, it's a boy. As I come closer, you'll say, hey, he is known to be, his name is Vasu. And as he comes closer, I can even physically touch the person and start calling, hey, how are you, hey, hey, or something. The name keeps changes. As the object comes closer, as the object gets clarity, we keep changing the name of an object. So this is the way we treat an object in a real world, so as the object-oriented programming. That's the benefit of. That's why the object-oriented programming practice is quite popular. Anyone can relate with the real-world entity and then try to understand it. Okay, so an object declared and been initialized, and of course, it has got a value as well. In object-oriented programming, object declaration alone won't be suffice. It's not enough. An object can be put into use only when it is initialized, or maybe with a value. At least initialization should happen. Till the time object does not occupy a memory. Okay. Again, I need to give a further classification. May not be very important for JavaScript, but maybe for the future references, I feel such explanation would always help you to understand. You guys are engineers, right? You know? All engineers, right?
Yeah.
Ask some basic thing for a clarification, you guys wait for some time to respond. Okay. In a computing, I don't want to get into detail because even though I come from an electronics background, I can still talk in detail. But having the scope of this training, I don't want to get into too much. An object means when it gets initialized with some values, the values need to be stored in a memory. So a memory, which is something where the value of an object lives, the size of a memory matters, and the architecture of the memory also very important. Or some other way, if I want to say, without the space where the object could live, is guaranteed that that object doesn't exist. Means the moment object is declared, no memory is allocated. Okay, there is going to be an object or there is going to be a variable. But the moment the value is assigned, now it is having a space to store this particular data. In what format, in which format, I don't need to explain in such a way. But I assume it is now occupying some memory. So an object always need a space to have it, to live it within the world or whatever the memory. If it do not have a particular object with the memory space allocated, that object is called null, a null object. It means when I try to print this particular object, what will happen? Typically, the interpreter or compiler will take the name of an object and go and search for the values where it is stored. It will go behind the screen and try to identify the address of the particular object and fetch the value and print it. This is the procedure happening in the computing world or in the electronics or whatever is being defined. Depending on certain compilers or interpreters, this process may be faster or slower or whatever it may be. So we need to think about that. The point here is an object which gets the value and store the value in some memory, some place where it has an access to, and object is ready for use. And an object can be retrieved, or maybe when I want to print an object, your compiler goes and hunt the memory device and check where the particular object, the value is existing. Maybe with the help of its address, it requires fetch the value. If you are very good at your C++ or other learning, that we would often talk about the pointer location, the address of the particular object, something we talk quite a lot. It means, for example, if you really want to, we have for example, you want to talk to me, but you don't have my number. So what's the best way you can access me? Searching for my address, try to get the access to an address and reach my home and talk to me. That's the only way. Similar, that's what I think. Again, come to object-oriented programming. So for example, if you want to print something, I want to use this object, only way to access this address. The address and mapping is internally happening as far as the compiler or interpreter, how it is being built. And then, after retrieving the address, the value is being printed. This is true for all the programming languages. Who is going to be responsible for this particular language? Because every language has their own way of architecture and one way of memory management. Remember, this is a browser runtime, so everything happening in the browser. So browser maintains the memory management. It is encapsulated. I don't have much control over it. Of course, I don't want much control over it. The potential benefit of encapsulating everything is I don't need to learn something in detail. Rather, I can simply use it. So that thing I'm going to do now. But typically, you need to understand an object never ever could be used until it is initialized. So this is true for all programming language. If I see an object simply declared and somebody who tried to print that object, it is violent. It is violent, or maybe it is potential risk, and nobody should attempt it. Maybe wondering why this guy is talking too much on a very simple point. Remember, this will have a cascading effect. As your programming starts growing, or when you get into too much of it, sometimes without initializing object, your compiler won't say any error. If there is an object declaration exists, your further code would work. NetBeans also may not be knowing whether you are doing right or wrong. But the moment the code starts running, everything will be different output you will get from that. So the first investigation always starts from, hey, objects be here. Some sort of null exception or something is thrown in. The very first idea is some object exists, but it doesn't have a place to reside. It means the object has not been initialized. So this is how your investigations should start. Anyway, I've done it as of now. So object is declared and initialized. A debugging option, as far as of now, ECMAS made it what do you call mandatory. Console.log, it's same like in Java system.out.println, a console output which you can see whether the particular block either it's called or maybe behind the instance of your console where you can print it. So console.log we are going to use quite often. It means an object is declared with a value and I'm trying to print that particular value using the statement or using the function in fact console.log, and I'm trying to print the object. In fact, I don't see much. Need to go to inspect elements, click on the console. If you notice, the output is showing here. The object output, you can see it there. It means my JavaScript is working, and the object which I initialize is properly initialized. Of course, I can start using it. If you are using intermediate or low level language such as C++, memory reference counting is everything very important. But thanks to JavaScript or Java kind of language, we don't need to worry about how many times an object being used. I can safely print anywhere wherever I want, and I don't need to think about destructing or clearing the memory of an object. It's a high level what I'm talking as of now. You already know because you guys are all engineers. You may have learned something about the need of initializing object and use the object, and after that the object is no use, clear the memory, free up the space. Those things would have come in some discussion. You wouldn't have asked when your professor or somebody is speaking. But remember, uh, a computer or electronic term machine which is primarily based on the memory specific one, when an object occupies the memory, if you are so good a professional developer, an object is being used and after that there is no need of that object, it is advisable to clear that memory so that it will free up for others resource can occupy. But it's a high level language what we are learning. It's a JavaScript or in fact even Java as well, where only creation of an object where we are going to mine, we don't need to mind about clearing it and free up the memory. Because such a high level language has a garbage collection technique built in, which will automatically clear the memory whenever it is the object is not in use. We don't need to worry about that. So garbage collection, the word itself very clearly tell unused object becomes a garbage, and of course somebody collects and removes them. So that things are happening. So we don't need to worry about the object is put into use and it's being printed. Okay, so the console log could be used to check whether my JavaScript block is working or not. And of course the console log can print a JavaScript object, and of course it could be used anywhere within the script tag. Okay. So is there any special type for a number? No. I can safely declare a number also this way. So it doesn't mean the var is a keyword only restricted for a string type. Var is an object. So an object can have any classification. In this case, it looks like a number. So in this point, of course, I can very well print the console log output and see what it is being printed. Okay. An array always a square box one. See, the point here is while learning the data type, learning about the array also very important, because when you try to address a group of variables, arrays would be more efficient, and we may have such instance where we need to address some sort of data as a collections. So arrays always are referred in JavaScript within the square boxes. So could be, so in this case, is an array. If you really want to print an array, let's see. Hope I saved it. I printed the array. It simply displayed whatever the array has of values. If I want to retrieve a specific value, give an index of an array. Say that, remember, index always starts with a 0. Index 2, the specific value alone could be printed. So 0, 1, 2. So the second index being called this way. So an array also can have a different data type, array of string according to this. I don't know, I'm not going to use a word string here because JavaScript automatically assigns the data types depending on the value it is getting initialized. So the previous one maybe looks like a number, and of course it also assigns the value to an object. So array is always denoted using a square box, and it can have a comma separated one to have a further indexed values specified. As a whole, it could be printed. Otherwise, we want to print the specific value, give the index, and of course, you can take access to that particular value. Another data type we may often use, I'll give a, instead of, I'll just give a name object itself. It is an empty object. Mean, what kind of data type I really don't know, but I'm going to create some data type in this case. So, sorry. This is also an object, but if you read it, what I try to say is clearly visible. I try to say, hey, it's an object. It contains two value pairs. Uh, the first one tells the first name of a particular object. The second one tells the second name or maybe the last name of an object. It means this object could be further classified. Say so. Get the value of an object which is mapped for a first name key. Key and value I'm going to say hereafter. An object, that's what I said, I can have my own classification, I can define in such a way. These things are pretty easy for understanding. This is also pretty fine. In fact, the array also somehow we understood pretty well. But this is kind of a special type object, looks like for us. Contains a kind of pair defined with attribute or maybe the values. This particular object contains two classifications, further classification, one being first name, second being last name. Remember, I do not have any quotation or something like that. Some sort of object technique, what I'm trying to say. It's not a string or something else. So, two classifications further exist. My own classification. And trying to print, hey, the variable is called object and print its first name. So it will print value what is the second. And of course, I can print the value of the last name. Right? So this kind of techniques we will be using quite widely. In fact, you would have seen in Java as well. It is kind of a technique. What is it? Key and value. Key value we often refer. So a value could be assigned to a key. Key mean a common one, or maybe repeated throughout, and of course the value which is assigned to a particular key on a particular instance. So in this case, the object has two keys called first name and last name, and each has a different value. I can print this way as well. So the value is being printed here. I think couple of other ways also possible. Let me see that. It can also be used in this way. I remember I don't. Let me see. First name. Yeah. I think quotation needed. Yeah, it's needed. This way also you can print it with a square box and defining it. Uh, but I prefer avoid this usage because it may further confuse us. It is looking like a kind of array or like that. So I don't want to use it much. But this is also possible. I want to say. So instead we stick it with the previous style. So what am I saying? And of course I can print a multiple value concatenating. The plus symbol is concatenation as far as JavaScript here. Of course, so as in Java as well, I remember some programming language will have a different technique for concatenation. So lastly, so in this case I'm printing both. So both are printed. Okay. So first one we saw an object with a value assigned. The second one and same like an object which was looking like a number, and third one is a array of an object. Of course, in this case, the object carried a string value, something like that. Of course, an object could be built using a number system as well. An object could also be built using a generic user-defined object also. For example, this is an object. It tells it's an array. It means this array going to contain two generic or user-defined object. That object will be looking like take this call 1 second. Hello. 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 Yes. Yeah. Yeah, tell me. Yes. Okay, so a student is an object, and of course it's an array, and in this case it's going to take some values. It's an object array, so maybe the student say name, say Ram Kumar or whatever name is, I remember, comma, roll number, say something, subject English, something. So this is the first set of a student. The second one start Robert. Make sure you keep the key value repeated across in a same uniform way so that the object would not mess up with the index. Suddenly don't modify saying that something else. That will create a null object for the previous object, and particular object may not have a specific key. These kind of object creation I'm doing it through a manual procedure because I'm doing it quite manually, but in fact this would be in a real example, it may be a user form where the user would be typing the user's first name and maybe a roll number, subject details. When you click submit, this object may be created in runtime. So, but for our understanding, I'm doing everything manually here. So do not even try to ask, okay, why don't I, if I have some other key, what will happen? This kind of cross navigation and trying to ask some sort of smart question won't be enough in this case, which will simply disturb our environment. I mean, what we are discussing here. So when we put them into use, we will get to know, okay, what kind of usage it is going to give me. So in this case, sub. So I like that with a comma separated, I can keep adding the further objects. It means a students is an array. An object called students is an array. And every index of a student array is an object, further object, because a user defined object. That each object has further key and values, one key being a name, another key being roll number, and the third key being a subject. So like that, an array can be built using an object type as well. So as it is true, because the previous array was built using a single object type called a string, in this case the array was built using another object itself. So I can keep define in this way. So if I want to, I just have two value, maybe I can add one more. Suddenly I don't remember some names. So number. So a student object is an array and it contains an object repeated inside an array. That object further could be classified using a key value pair such as name, roll number and subject. So how about I print it? Of course console log can directly print the whole bunch, but this is not what we interested. Students, bring the index of a student, or maybe the first one, mean zeroth one is which is going to be this set, and the first mean index will be printing this one. Students, the having the index value 1, I want to print. First thing, the output, it is looking like object, and further it has something else inside. So I need to get slightly even closer to it to bring the each value, so that I may need to further add dot either name or whatever subjects. Name. So once I add, the specific value could be retrieved. So this is a way to use the objects or maybe the data types in JavaScript. And pretty easy and pretty efficient as well. It's not something rocket science or something what we have learned so far. But remember, unlike Java's with the type of, for example, in Java I can keep array of string, array of integer, something like that, but that is not indexable. We have to specify the size of an array first, and then only we can assign the values in Java. If you do not use a collection framework, what I'm trying to talk. With the square box, what you use in Java, so a string of array meaning you need to define the ultimate size of a array, and then only the values will be added. And once it is defined, it is, you cannot edit in Java. You can change it or you cannot even modify it. Of course, for that only we have a collection framework which helps us to index, sort, or maybe add, remove, set, get whatever value is possible using collection framework. You may even treat that this particular array is similar to a collection framework in Java. It is indexable, could be modified, could be added, could be removed. I can process anything. And after the break, we will see if anyway I can dynamically add an instance to an array using JavaScript. At that time, I'm going to incorporate some UI. We are just seeing only JavaScript work. We add some tags so that we create a user form. We enter something, we click something, then array gets populated. And then probably we can verify and we can put it to use. We will see something, a real example maybe after the break. It's a time. You guys for a break?
Yeah.
Was the recording on the